So now we will be discussing about the next thing regarding the personality test, because even now as I speak to you, we have some 20 plus days until the mains results are declared. So all the aspirants who may be feeling anxiety or who may be unsure about what to do until the results are declared, and whether we should start preparing for the interview presently or we should wait till the mains result. So this is the aspect that I will be speaking about in the next few minutes. And first of all, I need to tell you that this is the time that we can take an early advantage, because most of the candidates, or maybe some of the candidates, they will start preparing only after the results are declared, because they may not be confident or maybe for some other reasons. But I'm here to tell you that right now is the time that you start focusing upon the personality test, because as I mentioned in the earlier video also, that personality is something that takes time. Personality is something that takes efforts, conscious effort in a particular direction to improve upon our weaknesses. First to accept them and then to improve upon them by working on them day in and day out. So today we will try to identify what are the various things that we as aspirants need to do until the mains results are declared, so that we can have that early advantage, so that we can take the lead in the preparation and be ready for the big battle that is awaiting us, that is the personality test. So we will be covering various things which we should be required to cover on a daily basis right now till the day of the interview. So first of all, let me tell you very clearly that interview is not a test of your knowledge. Interview is not a test of your facts that you remember. It is quite possible that there may be a few questions, and it happens. It happened with me in the interview, and there were a few questions I could not answer because I did not know about it. But I was very confident and I very humbly denied to the board that, sir, I'm really sorry, I do not know about this. For example, in the interview, last interview that I gave in the UPSC, in which I had scored one of the highest marks, that is 210, I was asked about General Zorawar Singh, since I come from the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So I was asked about what do you know about Jammu and Kashmir. So I had no hesitation in accepting that all I knew about him was that he was the great general of the Dogra army. But since I had not read details about him, I very humbly accepted that, sir, I'm really sorry, I do not know much about him other than the fact that he is a Dogra warrior. And very honestly, I told him that the only information that I do have is that there is an auditorium named in the University of Jammu after him. And despite saying this, I got 210 marks in the interview. So be very sure and very confidently you should be telling them, even if you don't know a question, that is not going to matter. What matters is how you present yourself overall despite not knowing a few questions. It is totally fine not to know a few facts, because since you are sitting in the personality test after having qualified the examinations, the mains, so your knowledge has already been tested. Now what is being tested is your personality. So this is the first thing that you have to be very careful about. Yes, we have to read some stuff which we will be covering now, but start with the mindset that you cannot and you will not know everything, because as I told earlier also, the interview panel is very much experienced, and their knowledge and with their experience, we cannot match them. So all we can do is to try and cover as many aspects which are likely to be asked in the interview. So we will just step by step try to analyze that what are the various things that we need to do until the day of the results, and even after that until the day of the interview. So first, let's cover the daily newspaper analysis and the daily newspaper discussions. So generally, if you ask anybody who has appeared in the interview, they will tell you that barring the questions which are based on your own detailed application form, which is called the DAF, other than that, most of the questions will be related to the current affairs. And even in the current affairs, very recent instances and events that have taken place. So the first and the foremost requirement is, if you have not been reading newspaper until now, start reading newspaper on a daily basis. I would recommend you read newspaper yourselves and try to form a perspective. Don't read newspaper just in order to cram facts, because facts are something which will not land you in a very comfortable situation. But when facts backed by your understanding and backed by your independent and informed opinion on that, that is what is going to make the difference. For example, in the news, there are a lot of things going on. It may be related to the Maharashtra elections. It may be related to the Jammu and Kashmir elections. It may be related to the Ukraine-Russia war, or maybe the issues with the US elections. But you need to identify what are the areas which you need to know and what are the areas which are not very relevant in terms of the interview. So suppose I gave you the example of the Maharashtra elections, or for that matter elections. So the politics around the elections, that is not what we are required to focus upon. But what we need to tell you, or what we need to be aware about, is the science behind that, is about the polity behind that, not the politics. But what are the rules and regulations governing the elections? What are the issues related to the EVMs? What are the possibilities of if somebody dies during the campaign? So all these things, the technical nitty-gritties which we read in the polity and Lakshmikant and other sources, you need to be aware about that. For example, I gave you the example of Ukraine-Russia war. So you need to have an informed perspective that what is the history behind this war, right from the times of the Second World War and aftermath. Right from that, we need to be sure about it. The NATO, the expansion, eastward expansion of the NATO, and Russia's observation on that. So you have to have an informed perspective that why is India supporting Russia and why is India trying to balance between Russia and Ukraine. So all these things you should be able to understand, and once you have understood it, after that it's going to be very easy to deliver it on the day of the interview. But suppose if you're just cramming facts that you know that the war has taken place on this particular date and in this particular area, so that is not what is going to be asked. You will be asked about practical questions which actually impact the policy making. So you will be required to focus upon that. So international issues, issues concerning your place, and all the national issues of importance. If you have written sports as one of your interest or movies as one of your interest, so you need to be aware about the various things that are happening in those particular fields. So when we talk about reading current affairs, it is not about reading a lot of subjects, lot of volumes of newspaper. Just stick to one or two basic newspapers. Most of the candidates suggest the Hindu or the Indian Express, or some even recommend the Economic Times. So you can read them as per your time availability. Even if you read one newspaper, make it a habit that read it every day. Even if you have not started until now, start now, because it is never too late to start. So start reading the newspaper. If you don't understand the editorial, just go to the YouTube and watch videos and try to have that perspective. And I'll tell you that with 2 months of newspaper reading, you will be way better than what you are today. So the first step towards the preparation in this period of waiting for the mains result is a habit of newspaper reading, which has to be routine. Second thing is, if you have missed certain topics, so take some compilations from the market, and based on that, just identify important topics which have happened in the past 6 months. I agree most of the questions will be pertaining to the recent past, but you need to have a broad understanding of important issues which have happened in last 6 months or maybe 1 year. So even if you have not been reading the newspaper for a long period of time, at least make a list of important topics, and you'll find that on YouTube as well. Just go through all those topics and try to have an informed perspective about that. Once you do this exercise and cover the current affairs, important events, again I will like to reiterate, I am not talking about the factual information. It is about your views on those particular things, how that issue has come up. That is what is in question. So these are the things related to current affairs that you need to focus upon. So once you're done that, simultaneously, as I brought about in the previous video, start practicing, start having conversations about yourself with your friends, with your teachers, with your parents, to know yourself better. Because as it is mentioned that interview is a personality test, so you need to work upon your personality so that you come across as a very confident and a very good gentleman or a very good lady. So that will come with practice. So on a daily basis, just interact with people who have known you for a long time, and try to identify and ask them that what are the various things that they think that you need to work on, and then start working on them. Also, be very honest and keep doing introspection with yourself. Keep speaking to yourself that this is something I need to do, not just for qualifying the civil services, but because I want to have a good personality and I want to be a very good and an informed citizen. So start working on that. Another important aspect which some of us or some of the candidates may overlook is the importance of communication skills. When I talk about the importance of communication skills, I by no means am telling that you need to have a very high vocabulary or a very good degree of vocabulary with English or Hindi. So it doesn't matter which language of which medium you are choosing for the interview. What matters is use your basic vocabulary, but it should be done with confidence, with clarity, and with accuracy. And the answers should be very precise and there should be brevity in them. So when I talk about working on the communication skills, right from today, make it a habit that every day you are sparing 15-20 minutes or maybe half an hour and working on the communication skills. Speak with the peer group or maybe teach in a class, because once you do it on a regular basis, that confidence will come up, your skills will improve. Like all other skills, communication skill is a skill that will only improve. The more you practice, the better you get. So in this lull period and till the day of the interview and even beyond that, make it a point that you are working on your skills. Some of people recommend or they do not overemphasize or they do not even emphasize the art of practicing communication. But I strongly believe that communications can help you in places where there may be a little doubt in the mind of the interviewer. But if you come across as a very confident and a very good communicator, obviously it is going to make some positive impact as compared to if you do not have strong communication skills. By strong communication skills, I again tell you, I do not mean good vocabulary. What I am trying to say is you should be very clear, you should come across as a very sorted out in your views, and they should be reflected in the confidence with which you speak. So this is something that we need to work upon. Other than that, yes, we need to brush about our basic, maybe the optional subjects. If you think there are possible questions which can be asked from the optional, we need to work upon that. And the other thing is the detailed application form. This is the time where you need to have discussions with mentors, with teachers, with your family, that each and every detail that you have mentioned in the DAF, especially your interests, your hobbies, and maybe your achievements, and if you have had certain working experience. So based on all these things that you have mentioned, these 4 or 5 things are the most important thing that you need to be sure about. You need to understand. Suppose you have written a hobby as maybe gardening. So if you have written gardening and you are actually doing it, then I believe that you will know a lot of things. But even if you have mentioned a particular hobby despite not doing it, right now is the time to get involved into it and gain as much as information on that particular hobby as possible till the day of examination. So analyze your DAF very, very carefully. Each and every word that is mentioned there, right from the places you have been to. Suppose there is somebody whose parents kept getting their postings from one place to the other. So there might be that they were posted to a place which is recently in news. So you might be asked a question about that. So every word, every place, and every hobby, interest, everything that is included in the detailed application form, all details of that should be very much on your fingertips. And I believe that most of you will not have written hobbies which you are actually not involved in. But even if you have written them, right now is the time to have information on them, gain information, work about it. And in the achievements and the interest section, if you have written books, if you have written some series, there's nothing wrong with that. Just try gathering information. If you've written books, then what genre of books you are reading, what are the authors you have recently read, all these questions. And if you name a particular book and by chance if the interview panel happens to have read that book, so they might ask questions related to that particular book. So this is the time to just sharpen your tools. in terms of everything, every word that you have mentioned. And most importantly, use this time to reflect on yourself, reflect on the kind of personality you have. Because once you introspect, that is where the scope of improvement starts. Until you ask yourself tough questions, that why is it that I want to be a civil servant? This question may be asked, that why do you want to be a civil servant? So introspect and try to be as honest in your answers as possible. And more than that, other aspects of personality, maybe your strengths, sometimes a situation based question may be asked, that you are posted as a DM of a particular institute or DM of a particular district, and once you are there, they may give you some hypothetical situations, that there is a contract in which one of the parties is somehow related to you. How will you respond to that? There may be questions related to the impending government, the present government, maybe certain questions against it. So there you have to be, if your polity is good, if your concepts are good, then you will be able to give the answers as per the requirement of the panel and as per the lines what the constitution says. So all these things you need to be brushing up right now. You need to be working upon that, all of that right now. And most importantly, I would recommend that from now till the day of the interview, keep a little time for yourself when you are all by yourself. It may be some kind of physical workout. For some, it might be listening to music, or maybe going for a walk, going to the gym. Keep that time for yourself, because interview, I would reiterate, is a personality test, and the personality will include the overall headspace that you have. You cannot be getting nervous as the interview approaches. So just be very grounded, be very calm, and that will come with practice. Once you have a routine which is not very stressful, at the same time, it has a place, it has a space for you to think about yourself, to relax. So the most important thing is that on the day of the interview, you may not remember 100 facts, but if you are confident, you are calm, and somehow you are able to control your nervousness, then I think you will have already beaten most of the other candidates. And I strongly believe that, especially for the personality test, your competition is not with the other candidates. It is your competition with yourself. If you can depict yourself as an informed, as an honest, as a man with integrity or a woman with integrity, and as someone who has an informed opinion on burning issues and who has a sympathetic heart, then I'm sure that with the experience of the board, you will definitely land up getting very good marks. So all the very best to all the aspiring candidates, and for those who are waiting for their mains results. I'm sure that this must have helped you. My best wishes to you. Jai Hind.